finance, who pays, when do you pay, do you pay? I don't know. We're going to be talking about all that stuff. So we have an amazing panel with phenomenal people. So if you can all introduce yourself, we're going to be starting with the ladies. Well, okay, I'll introduce myself real quick. Miana Joy, male motivator. Okay. Your turn, Pia.
Hello, I am Dr. Pia Washington, also known as the Property PhD, and I am a best-selling author of Attracting the Life You Want from the Boardroom to the Bedroom. And I am very, very excited about today's topic. I have a background in corporate finance, real estate investing, as well as a certified relationship coach. So I love it when I can marry my two passions together. Also co-wrote a book called Love, Money, and Power, and Portraits of Strong Relationships with my husband of 27 years. So I'm really excited to be sharing with you guys today.
Amen.
Amen.
27 years.
Right?
My name is Paris Lauren. I am a dating and relationship expert. Corporate America world, I am a leader in finance. My background is accounting, but my passion is speaking about relationships and just engaging with people. I'm excited to be here as well and be amongst the panel tonight. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Awesome. My name is Ahmad Perry. I live in my background is in business development and talent acquisition. I actually have recruited in the healthcare, IT, and accounting space in some large multi-billion-dollar corporate companies. I've also started a nonprofit called Generation 2 and a consulting firm called APE Business Solutions, where we specialize in accounting, IT, healthcare, and other professional services. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've ran a $30 million healthcare and IT company. And I am an author of The Only Way Out, How to Escape Poverty and Live the Life of Your Dreams. And I am absolutely excited to be here tonight to share the panel with such amazing, brilliant minds tonight. Thank you.
Well, next, Jay Malik, spiritual teacher, founder of the International School of Alignment, where my main passion is spirituality and like blending that in different aspects of life. My business background is digital marketing. So I like talking about finance, spirituality, love. It kind of all is the same thing for me. So glad to be here amongst this amazing panel, and hopefully you all like take a lot out of this.
Awesome, man. Well, everyone, my name is Octavius Tay Walton, aka your inner fitness coach. That basically means that I focus on the root and not the fruit. My coaching involves a lot of core work, and when people think of core work, they think about abs. I think about abs too, but I think about ABS, and that's reaching your absolute best self. And so with that, my background, I have a civil engineering and environmental science degree. I work in risk management and corporate sustainability. And yeah, glad to be here amongst all these good-looking people. And let's talk about it. Let's go deep.
Yes. So this actually came about because Jay, you posted a post that really had everybody up in arms, not only on your page, but every page that this post was shared to. Everybody was going crazy. And I was like, when I saw it, I was like, I have to post this because every time that I post something in regards to finances, my posts are always like almost going viral in a sense because it's a big topic. So can you tell us a little bit about that post? And I think everybody can kind of jump in from there.
Yeah, so the post's main premise was about leadership and intention. Like I'm big on masculine energy has to be intentional about what you're providing and how you're leading. And the post, I can't remember what exactly the post said, but it was 50-50. A man who's willing to go 50-50 has not made the plans or intentions to be a provider. And a lot of men took it a weird way, but it was just, a factual thing. So I think it opens a conversation about our intentions as men, how we lead ourselves financially, and how we can lead our households.
Exactly. Does anybody have anything that they want to chime in with that? 50-50?
Well, I absolutely agree with the post. 2 years ago, I got into that space and awareness of, with women, it's really about trust when it comes to men. So if she's watching how you handle your finances, or if you haven't put her in a balanced emotional state, based off of how you handle your finances and how you handle other things in your life, like she's really not going to trust you. So
Yeah.
one of the key components is in putting her in her, balanced self is taking care of her needs financially. Like that's what we're supposed to do. If you're spiritual, Adam had a job before he was brought Eve. So there is a time period of where a man should just be suspended in his work and building himself to prepare himself for a wife. And a lot of times we don't like to talk about that in culture from a man's perspective of preparing yourself for your wife. We like to talk about a woman preparing herself for her husband. It should be, both sides preparing themselves for each other. So I agree with the post.
That's really big. That's really big. Both sides preparing. Ladies, do you have anything you want to?
Yeah. So I second that. I also agree with the post. I think it's really important that we as women feel like our men are leading us and we feel safe and secure. And sometimes that means that the entire aspect, whether it's financially, whether it's mentally, I think that's something that gives us that security and makes us open up. And it also helps us to trust, like Ahmed said, it helps us to trust that our partner has our best interests at hand and also is willing to show us the way. So I definitely agree with the post, and I also shared his post on my page as well. It was something that it was refreshing to hear from a man's side, because oftentimes men look at a woman wanting to be 50-50 or they look at it in a bad light. So how he articulated the post was spot on. So I definitely second that as well.
I have something to say about it as well. And I think that part of the issue that arose from the comments as I was reading was a lot of the women kind of chimed in on and jumped in on that as if, that meant that the man has to do all the work or the man has to solely take care of the woman. And while I do believe that spiritually the man is the head of the household, and I do believe in the sentiment of there should be no coming into it, especially as an adult male. And I say that because there's a lot of people who are single well into their 30s and 40s nowadays, where they might be, and getting into a relationship. But if you're an adult male and you're trying to go 50-50, yeah, you're not going to be respected from that front. But I think that the women, we need to make sure that from our perspective that we know what we're bringing to the table. A lot of times, when you talk about attraction and finding a good mate, a woman can have a list that's a mile long of all the things she expects a man to do. One of them being, provide for her financially. But if you're not together and you don't have yourself together to bring something to the table. Now, what I'm talking about is not 50-50 finances. I'm talking about 50-50 partnership in terms of a team, in terms of I'm holding it down at the house, or I'm taking care of our business ventures. I'm doing this with a nonprofit. You're making the money. You're doing these moves. Like one of the things that we in our 27 years of marriage, and I feel like I can speak on it because I'm living it. And I was told never take financial advice from broke folks. So, so I think I can speak about making relationships work. Okay. Yeah. And so from that perspective, I think that it's important that women don't take that post and run with it, right? And say, okay, that's right. I'm going to find me a man that's going to take care of me, and I can just sit back and I can be here, and my man is trying to elevate us and our household to here. I don't think that's okay.
I like that.
And Yana, can I actually do one quick favor? I mean, just a quick reset for those who who don't know the definition of what we're talking about, what 50-50 means. Are those people just chiming in? Because I mean, it's a lot of good jewels dropped in. I don't want that to be lost right there.
Yeah. So you're saying to repeat what the show was about?
Well, like, what the post was about, like some people.
Yeah. So basically the post was talking. Let me actually go to my Facebook page to bring it up really quickly. But we did have, while I'm doing that, we did have some comments inside of the audience. So like Cynthia Moore says that you said spiritually head of household. What if the husband doesn't go to church and the wife is the one who keeps everyone spiritually grounded?
You're gonna have a imbalanced household. Right. Actually, the man is supposed to do his part as a spiritual leader. Like, he doesn't necessarily have to go to church. I don't want to put that on any man out there, but it's just the principles of just being a man. So a lot of times, a lot of our women have to be careful of nailing that man to the cross just because he doesn't, quote unquote, go to church, right? We have church culture in our culture, and we have to get beyond that, because a lot of that church culture is toxic, right? And those principles are kind of distorted. So I often tell women, and just based off of my experience, or suggest to women to be careful how you handle your man when it comes to dictating or saying what he should or shouldn't be doing, because a lot of men won't say this, but a woman kills a man with her words, or give him life with her words. So you got to be careful how you handle that male's fragile ego, because we're very sensitive. And a lot of times we'll never tell you that. You'll say something out of your mouth and we'll just go in the opposite direction and won't deal with you. So you got to keep that balance in check, because male and females have egos.
And, you know, I would want to dig deeper. I would be like, how was it when you were dating? I mean, again, like I said before in the intro, I would want to get to the root of that, not know the fruit that everybody sees. Why is it that what is his feelings about church? Was it a church hurt thing? I mean, I know we spoke about this earlier when we were talking kind of offline about the culture. I think the way we live today, we've kind of got into that. I think council culture finds its way into everything. And hear me out. It's like the more we evolve, there is a dumbing down. And kind of like, you know, if I say a simple example would be GPS. It's a great tool. It helps us, but you know, it makes life easier, but it kind of dumbs us down. We're not able to navigate on our own. We used to pull out maps and be able to locate landmarks. And if I were to give a more specific example, I would take it to audio media. Audio media, like when I was younger, my dad, he had what we call 8 tracks. 8 tracks, you had to listen to it, the whole album. You couldn't fast forward, you couldn't skip. I mean, and if a song you like, great, but the songs you didn't like, you had to accept that too. Then we moved forward to cassette tapes, where we had to actively fast forward songs. Had to fast forward, match play to catch in, and make sure you get your song. Then we move to CDs, and now you basically saying, "Hey, I only want the good parts of you. I don't want any other bad parts." And so with the council culture, I think we've moved, and we don't actually actively engage to accept the complexities of a person. So I would like to actually find out why he doesn't go to church, instead of just judge him and say, you know what, you're not being a man. What's the story? I mean, I know there's church hurt. I know there's, like Ahmad said, there's a church culture that's really pushing people away from the church. So it's not as simple as black and white. I really think we got to actually be able to negotiate the complexities.
Agreed.
I think too, when we're dating and we're courting, it's very important for us to figure out what it is that's important. And a lot of times I know women, particularly Black women of a certain age, they let a lot of things go, and unfortunately you do see a lot of Black women taking care of men. And I feel very, very strongly against that. And what is it about our society? I mean, the current events of the world would say Black women are holding it down in a whole lot of areas for whatever reason. But in terms of the household, I think that when we're talking about wealth building generationally, I think that it's important that the males are leading that charge. I think it's important for our children and our children's children to see men who are creating and leaving legacies for their families. It's great and it's honorable when I see my sisters doing it, but the men need to be the ones that are leading that charge. It's a family effort, but the family, if the man is the head and he's leading that charge, I think that's very important.
Man, that's gonna make me preach. I'm trying to hold
I like that point, Dr. Washington. And a lot of times I think when we talk about men not being 50-50 and like taking care of being a provider, right? You'll see a lot of women go to the defense of saying, well, he doesn't have to take care of everything because I don't want him to tell me what to do. Like, that's really a disconnect, because from my experience, I didn't realize that the energy that I was getting from my, wife at the time was giving me the energy to do the things that I was doing in my profession, right? So it's really about that balance and that energy spectrum in the household. If you have that woman in the correct, mind state, she's going to give you an idea or a strategy that you should look for in your business dealings. So it's very deep. It's really, really deep. It's not just about the money. It's that spiritual component. It's what happens when you come home after a stressful day. Like, what are your words doing to my soul?
Right.
Right. What are you being condescending? Are you being snappy? Are you taking shots at my vulnerability? Because the person that's closest to you, oftentimes your wife or your intimate partner, knows all the intricacies about yourself. They know all your secrets. They know all your dirt. You may look one way to the outside world, but they know the real. So how are you arguing? Are you having healthy conversations when you're having a disagreement, or are you going below the belt? And a lot of times, we have done and said many things in these relationships that often stems from those generational traumas that we have in our families that play out in the relationships. And so we got pain on both sides. Men trying to tell women what to do, women trying to tell men what to do. Nobody's listening. The men should be talking to the men, and the women should be talking to the women. And then at the end of the day, we come together and have this collective conversation so we can find some solutions.
I kind of want to go back to the spiritual side. They asked about the spiritual leadership of a man. Like, I feel like especially our community, when it comes to men, we don't typically do the healing work that women do almost inherently. Like, you always find women in healing circles and empowerment groups. We don't get that with men. We used to get networking groups, business meetups, but we don't really go, hey man, you want to meet up, do some meditation? Like, we don't really have that kind of dynamic. And so it takes intention. Again, masculine men are supposed to be intentional about what they do, and you have to be intentional about your growth. And if you can't look at yourself as a man and say, you know what, I can get better here spiritually, then where can you lead a woman spiritually? And that's always going to cause a disconnect if you're trying to lead someone somewhere that you're not. And so we have a lot of women who are more spiritually inclined than the men, and it just creates a natural disconnect. And I feel like that's a huge elephant in the room when it comes to, like, what are we doing as men to make sure we're healing, to make sure we understand our place as men, and that we should be leading, and we should take pride in providing and leading. That should be, a man's gift is his family. And I think the culture of Black America for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years has almost been anti-family inherently. And that's a big problem.
Can I take it back off that real quick? Okay, disclaimer. Gotta get my disclaimer. If you are not a believer, I'm a Christian, unapologetic. If you're not a believer, even if you don't believe in the biblical word, you still can get the wisdom from this. But speaking to the men, all men who are watching this right now, come to the front. We are at war.
Yes.
Brother Jay, it's a spiritual war. And war, I mean, you can look at some of the tactics that our government use, where we will go in and we will fund an insurgency to topple a government. Why are we doing that? We want to create chaos and distort the order. Distorting the order with us is putting us as followers and not the head.
Right.
Like you talked about, how men, we don't go to therapy. The first thing we do when we get into trouble or we are not balanced is we isolate. In war, there's a tactic where they cut you off from your supply line. When you cut off from your supply line, they starve you out.
Right.
This is the tactics of the other side versus us in the spiritual realm. We've got to resist and stand up. We've got to take our rightful place to put our house back in order.
Yes.
If we're not doing that, it's going to look crazy. I mean, again, you don't have to be a believer to agree with some principles that are spelled out.
Right, right. I like to piggyback off that as well. I think that as women, we have support where we have other women that are willing to uplift us and willing to comfort us. Where men, I feel like when situations arise, you guys don't have each other's back because you're being strong and you're being you don't want to be torn down anymore. You're taught to be tough, and as you guys don't have that support system. So when it comes to a woman and a relationship with a man, let's talk about spirituality, and she wants her mate to step into a world that he's not willing to go to. I think instead of us tearing him down, because the world's already tearing him down, I think we have to be that partner and be willing to lead him in a way that makes him not feel less of a man and tear him down from the inside, because the world is already tearing him down. And he's not going to have anybody to lean on, because a man, to me, is taught to hold things in, to harvest things. And I think if a woman is getting to know a man and he's doing things that are not what she's supposed to, or what she's used to, the best thing you could do is communicate with him effectively and show him that you say what you mean and you mean what you say. Because as women, sometimes we send mixed signals to men, and it's like, I want you to go to church with me, but the next Sunday I'm not pushing you to go to church or even mentioning church because you said you don't want to go. So I think that we need to mean what we say and kind of walk behind our word and kind of not tear someone down and just kind of help them instead of breaking them down.
That's what Charlamagne the guy say, not counsel, counsel.
Right.
Yeah, counsel. I mean, not dismiss somebody. Reach out to them, communicate to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to talk about that piece, Lauren, going to church, right? Somebody posted that a Muslim and a Christian have a happy life, and that is true. Because at the end of the day, both genders need to have something that they value, right? A value system, right? So I often tell people now in the space that I'm in, it's not necessarily my job to tell you or ask you to go and do something with me. My job is to be an example. And I think that we have to be careful when, I need you to go to church with me, or I need you to do this. Just be the example. And if your example is impactful enough, then that person will follow you.
Right.
Right. They based off of the results that you're getting in your life, how you're handling certain situations. Like there are certain women I just won't talk to if they are just super aggressive. I don't want a woman. I want a feminine woman. So don't inbox me. Don't ask me out for dinner or a date or coffee. No, I'm the pursuer. But here's the imbalance. Tay made a great. We are at war, and we got to look at what's in that division. I worked in corporate talent acquisition at the highest level of some of these billion-dollar firms. Okay, our females are able to thrive in some of those areas based off of your background, but our males are marginalized. Not marginalized, but our males are specifically marginalized because if you're not marginalized, then you are empowered, and that money goes back into your community. Now your kids are growing up in a different environment, and they get access to different education, which means you're going to be competing with some of those guys that's trying to get some of those jobs that their sons and daughters are trying to go and get. So we have to look at this system. It's been set up a certain way since the beginning of this country. So we shouldn't be at war with each other, right? Before the civil rights movement, we had to rely on each other because they was hanging us from the trees from looking across the street at their women. So we had to rely on each other. I'm not saying we were perfect, but we had to rely on each other. We circulated our money within our community. Now the dollar doesn't stay in our community longer than 6 hours. But listen to what happened in the, the 60s or the 70s? Now you can't get federal assistance, government assistance, if a man is in your house. That's where the war began, or the war continued. They just switched it up, right? Most of our men are incarcerated. They get out of jail. They can't get those corporate jobs because they got a felony on the background for petty crimes that are being capitalized on now, like the cannabis industry. Most of our men are locked up behind bars for those types of crimes. But now those other guys are about to capitalize off of that industry, and we've been paying the price for years. So we have to go back, like Tay said, to the root of the problem. Understand that, and then provide the solutions. And we got to lock arms, y'all. We got to have this conversation. more often. I love this platform. I love the technology that's bringing those walls down. COVID made everybody sit down and take a look at yourself, find
Exactly.
out what's important. Now we streaming live right now. Before we wouldn't even, you got 100,000 followers on your social media, I can't talk to you, right? But now those walls has been broken down
Yeah.
because we've had to focus on what's important, and what's important is our families. A lot of these companies that are owning the wealth, the Marriott, the Hyatt hotels, they're family companies. There's a building going up across my street, the Seelig Group in Atlanta, 4 generations deep, family construction, family-owned construction company, 100 million square feet of real estate, right? I'm involved in some commercial real estate deals in Atlanta as well. You don't see us at the table because we don't pursue that realm, and we don't believe we can get there, and then we don't have access. So there's a lot of issues, but we got to have this conversation.
I want to piggyback a little bit off of that, because you talked about some of the pitfalls that we face. And I think, again, I'm going to keep going back to this word intentionality, because as men, as spiritual leaders, as Black men, as original men, we have to understand our spiritual place on earth, right? We can talk about leadership. We can talk about finances and business opportunities, but there's a certain thing that has to go with, are you intentionally walking your path, right? So we know right or wrong, right? We know this is left, this is right. And sometimes I did a live stream maybe a week ago about how not to lose, right? Most of this game is just learning how not to lose. And as men, we can't make excuses for ourselves when we lose the game on purpose. You know, having 5 baby mamas is not a way to win the game. So you're creating 5 different families that are now probably going to lose because they're now 5 steps behind on Monopoly board. When you do something illegal and you get caught, you are now putting yourself 10 steps behind the game. So we talk about leadership and family. You can't lead a family unit if you're not being intentional about, let me make sure I'm not losing the game for my family moving forward. Let me make sure I'm not setting them up for failure, my kids up for failure, or my grandkids up for failure, because we're here to provide wealth for the next 3 generations. We can't do that if we're always 5 steps behind. And so a big part of this is just accountability. That's a masculine energy. I have to be accountable for my actions. And when you become 100% accountable for your actions as a man, you can say, is this action moving me forward? Is this action helping my family move forward? Is it moving my community forward? And then we can start talking about the different options we have. But when you take the wrong options every single time, there's not enough healing the Black woman can give us if we keep moving behind backwards. So we got to take accountability for ourselves and keep moving this thing forward.
Well, what do you say to the men, though, that are, and a lot of them were in the comments, at least on my Honest page that I saw, they took strong offense to your post. The comment of the masculine versus feminine energy. It was a whole lot of, oh, she gonna pay half, but she gonna pay her own bills, and you know, like it was a whole lot of mess.
You telling them to go to counseling. You tell them to go to counseling, go quick.
But it's so normalized.
They don't know who they are. Like Brother Jay just said, he said, "You're the original Black man. Your power." I mean, it's. Y'all seen Black Panther the movie, right? You remember when he first went through his transition and went back and talked to his father?
Yes.
And his father was talking to him, and he immediately bowed. And his father said, "Stand up. You are a king." I think we need to tell some brothers, you need to stand up. You are a king. And with that comes with a certain perspective. I mean, the Netflix show Bridgerton. I mean, I know a lot of ladies focus on the dude, but he was a Dutch and he behaved like a Dutch. He didn't have to come in. I mean, it's a way you do. Yeah, I'm sorry. But I'm saying it's something that comes with knowing who you are, knowing where you come from, knowing your name, that you walk a certain way and you behave a certain way. You're accountable. I mean, again, it starts with us. I love this conversation. I think this is why we're going so hard, because we're speaking to men, and you got men talking to men. And so I know something that is hard to receive sometimes from men. Hearing women trying to tell them how to be. So I'm glad these brothers are on here standing in the front line. But you got to know who you are.
Look, man, if I can put my life on the line, my country, a democracy that hasn't really worked for us as a culture, then I can put my life on the line for the women that birthed us, right? I was adopted at 8 months. I mean, yeah, at 8 months, I was born to a woman that had addiction, right? So I was adopted at 8 months, and my entire life, my story was my biological mother was dead. That's what my father told me, right? Key word, my father told me that. My stepmother adopted me, the only mother that I knew, right? So at 3 years old, we was poor in Alabama. She was doing what she had to do to take care of 2 kids as a single mother. I'm cooking some butter bread in the kitchen, right? My cousin is across the apartment, and she's watching us, but I got in trouble because my cousin came over and saw us cooking bread. And my mother told me at that time, I'm going to send you home to your real mother. I was 3 years old. At that point, my life was never the same, right? So I grew up with this identity issue, like not really feeling good enough, not really believing in myself, never had that affirmation. I had cousins and uncles and everybody around. Father wasn't around, right? So I had this animosity. I began to once a boy turns around 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, he's going to start testing that environment. He's going to start bucking that environment because his intellect as the original man, he's born with this divine intelligence. He's going to start exploring. He's going to start sneaking out. He's going to start talking back. A lot of times, because the men are not in the household, the women try to raise that man or cultivate that man, and it just doesn't happen. So now you got the woman who is stressed out trying to take care of this man. I remember, man, my mother used to pop me in the chest because I was tall, right? I'm bucking back at my mother because I never had my father in that environment to tame my intellect, to tame my energy. So now I become a grown man, but I want a family, right? Still having this identity crisis of not really feeling good enough. So I would date the woman that was kind of outside of my league to validate myself, right? I would chase the woman that was outside of my league, but I'm doing it for validation, that balance. So now we're in a 10-year marriage. I'm presenting myself to the world as one way, but at home I'm another way. I'm destroying this woman with my actions. And it wasn't until after we got divorced and I got into counseling, intense counseling, right? And I realized that a man's role in the household is to be a place of stability. Now, women can be up and down. You know how your emotions are. You don't know what you want for dinner. You know, Dr. Washington, I know you've been married 27 years. You probably ask your husband every day, babe, what you want for dinner? I don't care. Oh, no. You know, but I realized that a man is supposed to be that place of stability, not but emotionally, financially, and physically, right? I got to protect my wife. I got to protect my woman. And a lot of times we are left vulnerable to this perpetual cycle of fatherlessness in the household. So I tell people there's only one sin, fatherlessness, because if the men are in place, then the women have the right energy, then the sons would have the right energy, and then we can all cultivate that wealth amongst ourselves. But here's the issue: the men are not in place, the women got daddy issues, the men got mommy, everybody got daddy issues, and now we grown, we trying to get into a marriage and think we about to win. You're about to destroy yourself. You're about to destroy yourself.
Yeah. Quick question for the ladies to bring it back to finance a little bit. Should a married couple have joint accounts or separate accounts? Why?
Joint, and I feel very strongly about it. I feel very strongly about it, and not to go too much into my story or my background, but just again, we met in middle school. So when you're courting and dating from middle school through high school through college, you don't have yourself together. You don't know what you don't know, right? And so even though I got an undergraduate degree in finance, when we got out of college, we got married right away. We didn't know what we were doing financially. But one of the key things we did do was from day one, our finances were combined. And I have seen countless relationships, and whether it be through personal family members or people that we've coached and counseled in the past, that definitely their marriage failed. You know, the majority of divorce comes from financial issues, right? It's not always lack of finances. It's not. People think it's lack. It's not lack. It's that communication. It's that being on the same page, on the same accord. And I think that money and stress go hand in hand. I think people don't talk about it enough. I think that we had to learn and grow together as a couple, but my own mom and my stepdad who raised me had separate accounts from the beginning because they came with, my job and my bills and they never made it. They never made it because they would always have this issue with finances. And there's a thing like love languages. There's a thing that I'm going to call money personalities, right? Or your spending styles. And you need to understand that about yourself. If you're a giver, or if you're a spender, if you're a saver, if you're a status seeker, I mean, nothing wrong with it, but some people, money brings status. For other people, it's what they can give to folks. And if you have those different dynamics in a marriage, just like different love languages, you need to know how to work that out. My husband not only always wants to pay for me, he wants to pay for everybody else. Like, 20 people at a dinner and he'll drop down his credit card first.
You be like,
I feel like a king. I feel like a king.
For me, I'm a security person, and I'm the financial mind. So to me, I'm a saver and I'm security, right? And so I cringed in the beginning, but now I just plan. I said, I know if we're going out, I'm going to plan X amount of dollars because he's going to do this. So I think that having separate accounts leads to financial infidelity. It leads to, mistrust. It leads to lack of understanding and lack of vision. 70% of all marriages fail because they don't have the same vision for their marriage and for their life. So how you have a separate account and you doing whatever you're doing over here, and and now we'll say this: we have our own little play money. Right? Like all of our money goes into one joint account and then we'll divvy it up, whether it's a Venmo or a checking account, but it's complete visibility, it's complete transparency, and we don't have to talk to each other about certain expenditures under a certain amount of money. It's just there. He makes sure that it's there. I make sure that, I'm doing that and that's how it works. But fight me on this one. Anybody challenge you?
Yeah, I have an opposing view. Because I've been married and we had joint accounts, right? So I'm in this space now where a woman's money is not my concern. I'm not concerned about her money. I live very well on my own. I'm a great provider. I've been a great provider in my marriages. That's not my top concern when it comes to approaching a woman. I need to know if your energy is on point, right?
I don't say anything about my money, though. No.
I'm just saying about
whose money it is. If it's his money or mine, it's going to be joint.
Right, I understand, but I'm just saying my perspective. So I'm an investor by my trade, right? I have a trading academy. I can take any amount of money and turn it into a large sum of money. I'm very financially stable, so my relationships with trying to concern myself with her finances. I do want to see her body of work. What have you been doing since you've been on this earth, right? What are some of the things that you're into? What's your passion? What's driving you? What do you love? Because I'm going to build an infrastructure around those ideas. All right. Once I find out what you love and what you're about and what your passions are, I'm going to build that infrastructure around those ideas, and the money is going to come because of love, because of that unified vision. First, I got to have a vision as a man, right? I need to have a vision, a purpose, some initiatives that's in the community. I need to be a leader of myself. And so I should have some people following me, right? If I'm a leader, because if I can't lead myself and my family and my friends, then how can I lead a woman? Right? That's one. So I don't, that's not the first concern. However, I do want to know what's your, I saw somebody posted in the comments, what's your relationship with your money? Like, are you spending stuff for retail therapy? Because to me, that's an emotional void. You may need to go to counseling. Two, I need to know when the last time you talked to your counselor, right? Because if you are not getting counseling in this day and age, like, you're about to destroy me financially, right? So I need to know what's your relationship with your money. What's your relationship with your counselor? My accounts look pretty well. What's your student loan debt? What's your consumption debt? My net worth is pretty well. So I don't want to get into a situation where I'm taking on a liability. If it is set up that way from the jump, I will serve as a coach, but I won't date you.
Well, then, and so I think, Ahmad, we're making the same point, because
Yeah.
it's not about what you're saying. I understand that 100%. You have your stuff together, but if you choose to get into a relationship again and marry again, you're going to know that she's on the same accord, or at least that she's got herself together to a certain point. So it doesn't matter about how stable you are, right? Whenever you decide to get together, if you're going to be together, you're on the same team. You need to have that transparency with regards to the accounts. And what I was hoping I wasn't hearing you saying was, because you had your stuff together and your financials are here, that when you get married, you don't feel comfortable letting your wife share or have access to the same account. Those are two totally different things, right? And I make sure I don't hear you saying that, because the question takes.
No. I'm totally transparent. If you follow my Facebook post, I'm probably too transparent. But yeah. Again, I understand the dynamics that a lot of women are dealing with on the dating scene, right? I have stories. I have female associates and friends who have been, most of the females I know are like bosses, or they're doing very well. Yeah. And they'll tell you some stories where they've been taken financially by men. So my approach is, I don't even want to talk to a woman about her money, right? Your money is your money. You take your money and you focus on your legacy, focus on the things that you're going to do to make sure that your name is existing in this earth long after you're gone. I got me and I got us, but I want you to have some type of purpose about yourself, some type of vision for yourself. And again, I'm going to bring those resources and that infrastructure there so that you can thrive. And by you thriving, I'm going to thrive. Yeah. Because again, when she's in that right energy, I'm telling y'all, I got this training academy. I have more women in this academy than men. And it's scary, because I'm like, if I'm teaching y'all how to get your money together, right, who y'all going to go marry?
Right.
So,
right. Right. I want to piggyback off of that. I believe that if married, you should have joint accounts, but you should also have a separate account for yourself. People change and people's habits change. So if an event that the marriage is failed and everything was joint, who's to say that's community property? That person can leave and take the entire nest egg that you guys saved together. So when you have
I've been there.
You have your own account set up to kind of make sure that your legacy lives on. I think that that's healthy. And I also think that it is healthy to have, that joint account and also ensure that, your financial habits are in a certain realm, because people change. Maybe my husband is not making enough money at this time to spend frivolous money on anything, but maybe he starts making money. He starts buying stuff outlandishly. So I think people change. And when people change, I feel like we sometimes have to be selfish when it comes to protecting ourselves, because you never know what tomorrow is going to hold. And I think when it comes to financial education, when two people are married, I think it's healthy to have conversations, maybe on a monthly basis. Hey, where do we stand with this? What are your visions? What are your goals? Because people change all the time. So when you have those conversations, you're able to see where that person changed, and you're able to help lift that person up so that you guys can be on a even playing ground.
Okay, I agree, but I don't. And I'm gonna tell you why. I agree on everything that you're saying is in terms of having a conversation. Really got me. I still don't think it sounds to me like I'm gonna keep my pot over here in case this don't work out. People do change. People do change. Ahmad, your divorced self, be quiet for a second. You gotta watch your words. That's those words again. And to get a divorce. So people change. So you work through it. You work through it with your spouse. It's not like, and maybe I will admit that it's different with people who are single now after, like I said in the beginning, versus someone who started together. Because everything that we built together, as strong as I am financially and whatever I bring to the table, my husband does 3 times as much, but everything we have, we built together. And if you're 30 or 40 or plus years old, yes, of course you've built some things, and you're now coming into a relationship with a man, and you get married. I still believe that it's like in the back of your mind, you're leaving an out for, well, if this doesn't work out. That's what I hear when I say, will people change? Okay, well, so they do, and you got to work through it.
I respect that.
What I'm saying is, all right, my divorce, I was 35 when that divorce completed, right? We had joint accounts, right? I had an entire financial plan, business model for the household, because marriage is a business. That's why you need a license to get married, right?
Bookmark
So
that.
that's
We're gonna talk about
so
that.
so
Oh,
so that's
yeah,
a little,
that was another part.
it's a little different than getting married at 19 and 20 years old when you don't have your stuff together and you're trying to figure it out together. When you get into that 30-year-old, 40-year-old range, you got another set of challenges. So for me, I was just stepping down as I was running a $30 million health and IT company, right? We had joint accounts. We making, nearly $100,000 on the side in an enterprise that we started. We got $1 million transaction going. And because we had a difference of opinion, someone decided to, snatch all the money out of the account. So I'm just saying, from that experience for me, I'm not saying that this is a one size fit every situation. I'm saying for me, I'm 30, I'm about to turn 38 on the 20th, right? I'm involved with projects that people my age and coming from where I come from don't get involved with, right? I'm involved with a $100 million private equity fund. My net worth is almost 7 figures. Half of the women that I meet that are my age or a couple of years older than me have at least $60,000 to $100,000 in student loan debt. So now we got to have another conversation, because I'm tracking my net worth and you're tracking your FICO score. We're unequally yoked, and that's a tough conversation, because
and you need to not be with that person.
Yeah.
And you need to not be with that person because you're unequally yoked.
But that's what I'm saying. It makes dating extremely hard and difficult for me, because when I have this conversation, most women feel attacked. And I'm not attacking you. I'm just letting you know that here's how I operate. Here's how I operate my life. And I can help you, but I can't date you intimately, because that's a financial liability to me. That's a tough conversation. So as far as a marriage is concerned, I believe that the key to massive success is marriage and commitment. If you study wealth, if you study all the big players, Obama and Michelle, right? Obama wasn't balling when he got with Michelle. Right. Like Michelle held him down. So you got to understand that dynamic between the masculine and the feminine energy. Michelle breathed life into Barack until he arrived. So he hit the highest level in the country. You think that was Barack all by himself because he was intelligent? No, that was Michelle. That was Michelle calling the plays when they was laying in the bed, right? So I don't need to be laying in the bed. I don't need to be laying in the bed with somebody who can't think at that level, because I already have an extreme high vision for my life. So if I'm laying in the bed with somebody that can't comprehend that vision, I'm going to break you when I'm going after these financial goals that I have for myself. And that's what happened in my relationship. And it happened because I wasn't strong enough in my identity as a man to create that barrier around myself. Men are not taught to create barriers around their energy, because the culture teaches you to go and have, like Jay said, 5 or 6 women, and you end up with 5 or 6 baby mamas. You ain't protected your energy. My energy brings life. If I put my seed in a woman, she's going to give me a child, right? If I put my words in a woman, I want a business. I want a business idea. I want a business strategy. I want a thought process that you have that I don't have, because women can multitask and think about one task 20 different ways. Men are listen, I wake up in the morning, I'll think about food. My lady has to text me and say, babe, make sure you eat. It's the small things. It's the small things that count. And if I got somebody in my ear talking about red bottoms in the next trip we take, we may, I don't know. No, Dr. Washington. I think
I understand everything that you're saying, and I just think you need to choose wisely. You need to choose wisely. That's what that's going to come down to.
I'm protecting it with my life. You got to understand.
I want to jump into like spiritually, like fear consciousness, because Dr. Washington, you was talking about like, joint accounts, separate accounts. I think there's a energy of fear, right? We all have fear just innately in us. And for a lot of men, it's like Ahmad said, like, yo, I'm doing this. I got a vision here. I can't afford a woman who's here that can deter me off my path. But that's part of knowing the game, knowing not to lose, right? Like, okay, that means my standard has to be so much higher for myself. So I won't even entertain anything below this level, to where if a woman gets my attention, it's because she at this level. And it's like, okay, wait a minute, she at this level? And now we can talk about these things. And now I'm more open to having the joint account because I know you at this level. But I think men sometimes, going back to like the post and like 50-50, men have the trouble with, I don't want to go 50-50 with her, but their standard is so low, they're willing to sleep with anybody or shack up with anybody, but they're not willing to provide for the person because they don't really value that person. And because they probably don't value themselves enough to have that higher standard. So it's like, how can you make this work? And I feel like men, we just have to keep pushing our own standard for ourselves. And the woman quality is no match.
We're not taught to have no standards, man.
As long as she got a nice button to smile, you can go. But
that's so crazy. We'll share our DNA, but won't share our account.
Ooh. That's a hashtag.
Let me jump in for just a second, man. I mean, I love this dialogue. I'm over here crazy, spazzing out. I just love hearing y'all talk, man. But it's just been so many great points. The reason I threw that bomb out there, because I know that this is a big debate. I know that some people believe one way and believe another, but one question I want to pose to everybody is I think you tapped into it, Brother Jay. Have any of you read the 4 Agreements?
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes. I mean, and it kind of talks about walking in that fear, you know what I'm saying? Versus the love. I think when you are walking in fear, it clouds your vision. And I think, I'm glad we have these conversations, because I don't think enough people talk about these type of things when they're dating. When they dating, we'll talk about what's your favorite color, what's your favorite ice cream. Nobody ain't say, hey man, let's pull our credit report and see where we at.
Man, listen, I went on a date about a month ago, and we talked about that credit score, and we shot each other our credit scores right off the rip. But again, is what Jay said. Like, I'm operating at a certain level. This person was operating at a certain level, so it's not a problem if we share that information. It's a different level of intimacy at this point.
Right.
So,
and let's normalize sharing FICOs, please. Let's normalize this.
Let's normalize sharing FICOs.
I want to go beyond that. I want to go beyond that.
Talking about net worth, because too many of us don't even understand that they're operating. If they would just be a 0, it's better than where they're operating. Let alone being at a consistent, upper level. Let's normalize it.
I mean, you pull the whole credit report. Look at what you owe. The Bible talking about where your money lies, where your treasure lies, that's where your heart is. See what people spend. What you're spending at is. Oh, you like shoes. Oh, okay, great. Oh, you bought $500, $600 Jordans. Oh, okay. It's just things like that on credit.
Right.
So you are in debt to furniture. I mean, it's just things that you learn about somebody. But we don't really preach that. But again, to me, that goes back to being able to engage the complexity of a person. I mean, again, you can meet somebody who has made mistakes or is in debt, but they've already started the correction process. They've already recognized the light. Don't counsel them, so that may be the Barack Obama right there, you know what I'm saying? But you don't see it right now because he's
worried about the hole in his car. It's too many females that would miss a Barack because they're worried about the hole in the bottom of his car.
Real talk, man. It's really that energy, like we talked about, Brother Ahmad. It's the energy. You got to really see what somebody is.
So here's what I did, because I live in Atlanta, right? And Atlanta is the home of the $50,000 millionaire, right? So you got people. The $50,000 millionaire. You got people pulling up in cars that they can't afford to impress people that, whatever. So here's what I did. I got rid of all my luxury items, except for a few little details. You got to look real close to see what it is, right? I got rid of my car. I moved downtown. I take public transit, or I call Uber if I'm going somewhere, right? But it's interesting when you're operating and you're talking to a female who may not understand that, right? Because they're looking for those items. They're looking for those symbols to say, oh, he made it and he's successful and I feel a certain way around him. So I got rid of all of those material attractors that would pull somebody to me. And so you have to focus on the content that's coming out of my mouth. you have to watch my actions, right? I tell women to observe me for 90 days, right? And after 90 days, you'll see my ups, my downs, my flaws, my greatness, because we have flaws and we don't like to talk about them, right? When I meet a woman, I'm going straight to my flaws. Let me tell you something. I'm a horrible individual. You know. Look, hey, Dr. Washington, I hit him with that. We ain't got nowhere else to go but up from here, right?
Alabama fan, that'll get him off.
He did y'all dirty last night. I saw you took the shot at me. I was like, I'm gonna take that because we beat y'all pretty bad last night. But it's all love.
So I have a question. So you think in 90 days that a person is able to look past the lust that they have for you and actually see the signs that you're showing that you're actually, you know, this person? Because sometimes 90 days isn't enough time. That person is still in lust with you and they're blinded to the fact that you are a different person. So I'm curious to know that 90-day time frame. Where did that come from?
I'm gonna go to what Jay said. When you're intentional, you'll see a lot. The key is, are you intentional, right? That came from that came from me. I'm a veteran, right? So I went to Iraq. I was in the Marine Corps and the Army. When I was in Iraq, I identified dead bodies every single day, right? Bombs would go off across the street. They would try to hit the hospital with mortars. When a bomb goes off across the street from where you're sitting, the time stops. The air is sucked out of a room and then it comes back real quick. So why did I mention that? Time is an illusion, right? We say, oh, I need more time to get to know this person. No, that person is showing you who they are in 5 minutes of you meeting them.
Yeah.
All right. So what Jay said, being intentional, if you are intentional in the first 90 days, you will see everything you need to see of that person. But you're not. You're probably attracted by because he's cute, he's tall, he's bald headed, he got a beard. You know what I'm saying?
He's a duke.
You know, or you're looking at the car, you're looking at the clothes, you're looking at is he wearing labels? You know what I'm saying? You're attached to the wrong thing, and that's a spiritual deficiency, in my opinion, right? You're not attached to the being of being a creator. Like to get a high level of amount of money, you have to understand spiritual infrastructure. 1% of the population makes $400,000 or more.
Yes.
Right? That's a well tracked. So and here's another thing. We're 5 or 6 generations from slavery. So why are we walking around acting like we got Johnson & Johnson money? You got Gucci.
Can we go? That's a good conversation we need to have.
You're walking around acting like you got Johnson & Johnson money. You're buying Gucci, Louis. Do you have a brokerage account? These are the questions I ask. You got a brokerage account? Because if you don't have a brokerage account, I understand that you don't understand financial literacy. So you're a liability to me. I need to coach you. I can't date you. And it's not a shot. It's just a moment of awareness that we have to have. Because you're going to destroy yourself emotionally, physically, spiritually. And the person is going to destroy themselves emotionally, financially, spiritually. And then you have this perpetuation going on in the community. And nobody wants to take accountability for their actions. So it's a tough conversation.
I think the 90-day thing is good if everybody's being their true, authentic selves, right? I think that, you know, one of the comedians was like, you know, you're not that tall, your hair is not that long. I mean, there's a physical fakeness that we put forward, and then there's an emotional, you know, when people are dating, you know, I understand that energy, right? When you're, you know, courting someone, I use courting because I'm old school, but you know, when you're getting involved with someone, getting into a relationship, not like these nowadays where people are like, we just hanging out, which mean, you know, who knows whatever they're doing, friends with benefits. But I think it's important, Ahmad, for that to work, for the 90-day things to work, is everybody has to be true to themselves. And that's very difficult when I think, you know, women are out here like, I gotta find, there's pressure. The older women get, there's pressure. I don't know, society from other women, their family. You know, I can tell you how many people Thanksgiving and Christmas time where they would dread being with the family because they're going to be like, are you not getting married yet? You know, there's pressure. And
Mary Ahmad, he's successful. Get him.
You know, we need to be, that 90-day thing could really truly work but everybody needs to be transparent and honest and open with who they really are. Not just, and I'm not just the jokes aside, physical stuff, you know, but that materialistic that you're trying to fake the funk and you're trying to put on airs and you're trying to impress someone. You know, we need to get right down into it. Like you said, share the credit report, share the FICO score, talk about, you know, what your goals are and what's your 5-year plan. Some men get offended when women ask them, you know, what's their financial plan for their future. And I don't think they should, because again, like, you know, Brother Jay said, that's masculine energy. You ought to have a plan.
Right.
You know, it may or may not involve you, but you ought to have a plan.
Right.
I think most people should.
And don't ask that question. Don't ask that question if you don't have a plan either, because you can't demand a standard that you're not up.
100%.
I think that's part of the biggest problem. People are not future thinking enough.
Yeah.
I think we're stuck in the present. I think that's why we buy stuff. Like you say, we're in Atlanta. I'm in Atlanta too. It is the home of the 50,000, but it's not even. It's a lot of fronting. Even I see it all over. I see, and I know the temptation in business is to appear bigger than you are. But I think that's the problem when people bring in the thought process of marriage as a business. Doesn't think you have a lot of business aspects? Yeah, but I think when you think about business, I mean, I'm gonna give you corporate America. And corporate America, I'm not really emotional connecting to anybody. I'm really strategic in separate connecting. Do you want that in your marriage? Do you want to be where, hey, you paid that power bill this month? Oh, okay, all right. Okay. What about, you know? Okay, we go. What you have for the mortgage? Roommate. Do you want that type of? Because that's what I think about a business. You know what I'm saying? Oh, okay, I'm paying for lunch tonight, but you paying for lunch next time. So it's a lot to that. When you say it's a business, but there are business aspects of it you gotta look at. Only thing I'm saying, reason I say think about future tense. There are agreements you got to make. There are some situations where the woman will make more than the man. But the biggest thing that everybody kind of talked about, alluded to, is if you're independent, if you're meaning that you're a man and you're not looking for somebody to come take care of your bills, you're able to sustain and do what you want to do, because it's not how much you make, it's how much you save. We haven't talked about slavery.
That's right.
Well, we already know. We already know 76% of Americans didn't have $1,000 available before COVID. So again, while we walking around, because we can talk about the numbers, I know the stats, right? Like while we walking around, we got on Gucci this, Louis this. 76% of Americans did not have $1,000 available in a savings account before COVID. That's Americans, not just African Americans, but Americans, period. So you already know we are behind that money game, because we haven't been playing it. So I have to agree to disagree with you, Tay. We have to approach marriage from an economic, spiritual, and a political standpoint. Agreed. Because if I'm thinking I'm not thinking 5 years ahead. I'm thinking 5 generations ahead.
That's future thinking.
I can't go through another divorce because we're delaying generational wealth. I got to start over again. Like I told you, Selig Group is 100 years into development in Atlanta. We live and party in Atlanta. We got a lot of ballers in Atlanta, but we don't own nothing in Atlanta. So we got to get to ownership. And we have to say, okay, if I am going to get married, there is a political, spiritual, and economic component to that. That's why you get a tax break from being married. The government is recognizing it as an economic unit. So I got to think economic, right? I got to sit down with my family and have a state of the estate address as the president.
That's a part of it.
As the president. Mr. President.
That's a part of it. The reason I think that, okay, just like Dr. Washington said, finances are one of the biggest reasons people break up. But again, that's the fruit, not the root. Usually the root is selfishness deep down. Everybody is trying to protect themselves somehow, some way, whether if it's financial infidelity or if it's just, it's selfishness. But the thing about it is, since that is the biggest attack on marriage, just imagine if that got a lot of your energy together. If you say, you know what, we're going to be in this together. Movies, again, I keep referring to movies, but when people go on a long journey, they grow closer. And a marriage is your journey, supposed to grow closer. And
Talk
so,
that. Talk
yeah,
that.
if you're doing things separately, you grow apart. You know
That's
what I'm saying?
right.
But I mean, but like Dr. Washington, she has. I think she's great. I mean, what she said, you can have a joint account, but still have individuality.
Right.
Yeah, they spend an account, go blow it on how you want it, because you got to have that retail therapy sometime. But again, that's why budgets are created. I like what you said, brother Ahmad, about meeting somebody, because you need to know if they're thinking about living off their 70% of their income and saving the rest or whatever. Again, you can be a garbage man and be wealthy if you're living right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of
Right.
people don't make their wage because I call it peacocking. They're trying to look good because they know, oh, girl, he got on that Gucci belt. Oh, well, let me go check it out.
Mm-hmm.
That's for the little thotties out there who looking for somebody got a little money on them. You know what I'm saying? But he gonna go buy his jewelry at the middle of the mall. He gonna go put on some tight little pants or whatever, and spend all his budget on a nice $1,200 car, $1,200 a month car that's losing value everywhere he goes, just so he can actually attract that woman that think he's got some substance by himself.
So, Dr. Washington, I got a question for you.
They're talking about we're not talking about love. Someone talks about love. Somebody else said love don't pay the bills.
Love don't pay no bills, man.
They're right.
Because before we get to love, we were talking about in Brother Ahmad's situation, right? Like before you even get there, there's some things that we need to make sure we're on the same accord. And I think that, yes, love is beautiful and love is great, but love is never enough to make a relationship work. It's never enough to, sustain when things get bad. Love is great. I love a lot of people. I love all of you. I barely even know you, but I can say that with all my heart because I'm a loving person and I really truly feel for, my people. But when we're talking about this particular topic, it's really important that we address the other things that make a marriage work or a relationship work, regardless of your relationship dynamic. And the point of it is that you need a man that's got a plan, that's going to lead the family, and you need a woman that's going to be able to do her part and do her role, whatever that role is on the team. We all got a role to play. You just need, and the love, that's great. That holds it all together. But if you don't have all those other things, if you don't have commitment, trust, accountability, transparency, intimacy, all those things, then love is not going to be enough.
Right.
Crisis management.
Right.
Yep.
I want to piggyback off something Ahmad said. He was like about spending, and we talk about finances, and everybody's in business and moving forward. We look at the statistics, right? 90% of Americans save less than 6% of their income. And the 90th percentile goes up to 125. That means people are making $100,000 a year and aren't saving 10 grand, right? That's 90% of Americans. The top 1% saves 32% or higher. So we look at any individual household, where do you fit in on that bracket? Are you in the top 1% savers? Or are you in the bottom 90% savers? That's going to tell you a lot about where a person is mentally when it comes to their money. And again, like you said, we don't have this generational wealth that we've been building for years and years and years. So we can't afford to be hyper consumers in a society that we talked about. Again, we're at war spiritually. So why can I over consume in a society? I need to be building and accumulating resources. And the men have to be thinking like this as well. Like we have a lot of men who are over consumers. You can't be a man and be an over consumer. A man is supposed to produce. Right. So I have to produce way more than I consume. And I gotta save what I get. So I gotta produce, save, invest, produce. Like you working as a man. But we have a lot of men, our culture teaches men, hey, go get the flashy car, go get the jewelry, go get the new shoes, go get the new. We teaching our men to consume. And so then we get into a dynamic relationship, and now you like, well, we gotta go 50-50 because we both consuming too much.
Right.
I challenge all the single ladies to have conversations too, just about ask a man how, the type of assets he owns, and if he has passive income producing assets, and if he has, that'll tell you a lot about what his priorities lay, right? Because if he starts spewing off anything that has four wheels, right there that he doesn't know, anything about financial wealth and stewardship. Okay, because those cars, as nice as they are, they're just liabilities.
Right.
Right. But Dr. Washington, you got to be careful with telling women that, because if you're going to ask that question,
You
you
gotta,
have it.
You gotta
So, so,
understand,
so
gotta be up
don't.
there too.
So you can't demand a standard you can't uphold. So
Ooh,
you can't ask
it's
that
a
question
teacher.
if you don't have passive income, right? You can't ask that question if
right.
you're spending.
Obviously I do, and so that's why I
Yeah,
said it.
yeah,
I
yeah,
agree
yeah,
with you 100%.
yeah, yeah.
I
I
agree with you 100%.
How you gonna talk about a vision?
I got a question for you. All right, you said when you and your husband got together, y'all both figuring it out, right? At what point when y'all figured it out, y'all found a little synergy, this thing is working, that money, we taking a little bit better vacation than we did. You know, talk about some of that. 27 years, what people don't like to hear about is, those down moments in 27 years. Marriage has been
Yes.
under some stress, right? In one of those areas, the business deal didn't go through, the investment didn't come in, the ROI, what it was, you know, talk about that.
He's on here, so I'm looking for permission, but I know I already know that I have it. So
Come
you
on, Doc.
got a thumbs
Yeah,
up
Come on,
or a
dude.
yes,
You
baby.
got
You
it.
I love how she said she's looking for
that's
permission,
right.
right?
Ooh.
That's right. Hey, listen, I love it.
I'm looking for permission.
Exactly.
I don't see it yet, but honey, I know I have permission to go in on that. Granted. Thank you, baby.
That's right.
He been dropping
Oh,
gems too. I've
yeah,
been seeing him talking. He been dropping gems
I'm
down
gonna
there.
tell on myself first. I'm gonna tell on myself first because yes, we were, we went to college together, and when we got out of college, I mentioned I had a finance degree, right? But my examples on finances were very poor as far as my family was concerned. My mother, chronic shopper, always had like Saks cards, typical, those kind of things. I knew that I wanted something different for my life, but I just didn't understand it. So when my husband and I decided to get married, I had 19 revolving credit cards. I had one for the Limited, I had Macy's, I had Amex, I had every credit card that you can imagine. And it wasn't for anything substantial. It was for pizza that so even in class, I'm not applying that knowledge as a 21, 22-year-old. And that's facts. We had our oldest child early, very young, and he was born with sickle cell disease. So on top of the debt, I didn't have a lot of school loans because I was on scholarship. My husband had some school loans. Now we're early 20s with a bunch of medical bills above and beyond what the insurance would cover. Very good corporate jobs, and I'll be transparent. I came out of college making twice as much as my husband because I had a degree that commanded more initially than my husband did. But we were broke on another level. We were the first generation college. We made a lot of money, on the outside together as 20-year-olds, but we were financially broken. We were destitute. And so it wasn't until some business people came into our lives and they showed us a different way. We started both, practicing, the law of attraction and meditating. I don't care if you call it prayer, meditation, whatever. But at the end of the day, we were like, okay, we're grateful for what we have. We practice gratitude. And then every goal that we set for ourselves, the first being, we're going to get out of this debt. And when we get out of this debt, we're never going to go back. And we did. And we got out of that and we never went back. And we led this great life. We built houses. We moved from Ohio to California. We did all these things, had this wonderful, existence, made a lot of money, moves, investments. We spent $300,000 on a franchise. We bought a wine store and we bought the territory for Southern California. Ended up, long story short, ended up in a lawsuit with the franchisors.
Wow.
Who one of them referred to us as you people. So, white man from Southern Florida, and long story short, we ended up losing everything right at the time when the market was crashing in 2007, 2008, as it pertained to that business.
Talk about that number.
Let me tell you why we stayed together. Let me tell you how we made it through. Because we did what we said and we never went, we're not destitute, we're not broke, we still had money, we were still able to pay all of our bills. Okay. He still made sure our household ran. Oh, mind you, this is important. Because I was so ambitious, I was going to be CFO one day. And he
Mm-hmm.
was thinking, you know, this woman is ambitious. Well, after the fourth child, I decided I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom at one point. And my
Mm-hmm.
husband, being the man that he is, said, absolutely. You want to be a mom? You don't have to work. I got this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we were in a position financially where I didn't have to go to work. But because of the way that I am and I'm so ambitious, I ended up going back to work. So I always had income, whether it was from, you know, side hustles, business, investments. We started buying property. We bought a property in Arizona, still have it today, bought a property in Vegas. And so I think he's writing in the chat different things that work. But I think the lesson of it all is that it was some really dark times when that business was time to close. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and when you're facing something like that you've poured, we refer to as our fifth child, right? Like you pour not only $300,000-$400,000, but how many weekends and days and nights? See, we didn't spend our time and energy on like collecting things. We were trying to
Yeah.
build wealth. We were building businesses, and to have to say, okay, we have to walk away from that infrastructure. It was a lot of crying, a lot of tears, and a lot of, you know, soul searching. But at the end of the day, he said, you know what, this is what's right for our family. We will rebuild. We will rebuild. And so go ahead.
I like something that you have said. You said someone helped you guys, they mentored you. I think that when you get to a certain financial stature, that it's important to reach back and help somebody else. Oftentimes we get to a certain level financially and we become selfish and we don't want to look back because we made it to somewhere. But in order for your blessings to keep flowing, you have to be a blessing in order to receive a blessing. I love that you said that's major. But you also said, even though you were going through everything, you had the law of attraction. You already had the vision set for yourself and where you guys were going. You wanted to be CFO. Even though you had trials, you still remained solid, knowing that, okay, this is not going to be forever. It's going to get better. And you stayed focused on the prize. And I think oftentimes when we go through financial injustice or we're financially broken, we automatically think this is it for us. So we have to change our mindset when it comes to finances and things that we go through. And you go through everything for a reason. And you're probably better off now than you were then. So I love what you're saying. And I think that it's super solid for us to understand, just because something happens to you in a marriage or in a relationship and you hit a high and you hit a low, you're always going to have highs and lows. But as long as you stay ambitious and stay motivated, I mean, you'll end up where Dr. Washington is.
You got
it occurred to me that you said real quick about the change. You know, when you're saying how people change, I changed right. The deal. Because when we got into it, like I said, we both worked. In fact, I made more. He quickly overtook me and started making more. But then at that moment that I looked him in the eye and said, it was because my son was sick. And the words I said was, I don't want to have to ask another man permission to stay home with my sick child.
Mm-hmm.
That other man being my boss. Okay. Right. I didn't think that was what God had been planned for my life. And so when I said those words to him, he was like, okay, absolutely. We going to, then my income wasn't nothing to shudder at then. And that was in the early 90s. Okay. And so, but he was like, you know what, if this is what you want to do, this is what we put things in order. Things were, we had, to Jay's point and his post, there was a plan.
Right.
There was
Listen,
a plan.
I want to talk about something that you did, right? I want to point out something because you probably so used to doing this, you don't even know you do it, right? You said, I'm waiting for my permission from my husband to answer that question. Yep. That's called reverence, right? Mm-hmm. And I know you reverence him. I know he reverence you because you women are going to reciprocate the energy, right? Whatever he gives you, you're going to give it back. So I know he gives that to you on a consistent basis. Mm-hmm. There is a lack of reverence in the culture when it comes to how we deal with our women, right? Mm-hmm. Now listen to our music. There's no reverence in the music as it relates to the women. Listen to country music. There is reverence in the music and country music, right? So again, Tay said we're at war. There's that corporate structure on most people's 9 to 5, but there's also that entertainment structure too that are tearing down the fabric of our relationships, tearing down that reverence, right? You got all these Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B, there's no reverence in those relationships, but that's always marketed to you, and you're getting hit with those impressions every single day. So for you to say, I'm waiting for my permission from my husband, being a top performer that you are all your life, right? You came out of college banking, right? You still reverence that man. He reverence you. And that is the energy that you need to sustain wealth, relationships, and your finances.
Nailed it.
Says a lot about a husband too. I mean, a lot of people think that income determines like the leadership, but if you are a man walking in your identity, I mean, people will still give you that respect just because of your countenance and how you take care of yourself. It don't necessarily mean your income. You got a lot of dudes that are lame that make a lot of money. They quiet, they bashful. They got other people speaking for them. That says a lot about. I mean, I see his comments. He's been dropping gems. I'm like, who is this guy?
Had to tie together, man.
I see now. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Who's older, Dr. Washington?
He is. And he's also a certified relationship coach as well. We when we did our first book we did together, was our whole goal was to focus on Black love. Before there was a show called Black Love, we had a book called Shades of Love. And we had his grandparents who had been married 75 years at the time. And we had couples who had at least been together 15, 16, 17 years, and we interviewed them all. It was a beautiful photo book. And we wanted to hear their stories of just what you asked me, Ahmad, like what were some of their struggles that, they had gone through, and how did they overcome? What were the keys to their success? And after we did that book, there were certain themes that rose to the top. That respect and reverence and edification of your partner. I can't tell you how many women talk bad about their boyfriend or their husband, and you expect different results. Like you get what you speak. Like if you're going to complain that he's this, how about you focus on how great he is at this, that, and the third, and you'll get more of that. But instead we tear, like I said at the beginning,
both ways.
Tear them down, and when you tear them down, that's you're going to get more of that same energy. So I think that was an important exercise. So because we went through that together also as a couple book writing experience, that gave us a lot of insight into people who had, been together even longer than us and figured out and again, Black families, right? And figured out how they made it work. What were the keys to their success?
That journey, man. That journey to that journey.
Yeah, I don't think you can do it alone. I don't think they say it takes a village to raise a child, right? I think it takes a village to sustain a family. Right? It takes a village to sustain wealth. And I think we were talking before we got on in the chat, like I feel like this is that village, right? We're starting this conversation, or the conversation has been started having in these different siloed environments. Like, I didn't know who Jay was. I think I saw the post go viral, but I didn't know who Jay was. Y'all saw me asking for the IG this morning. Now I look at all his stuff is on his Facebook page. I go to this brother's handles. I'm like, oh, this dude is lit, right?
I just saw the grenade and said, hey, man, we need to talk about this.
Wow. And another thing, we talked about the men in healing. I think Tay and I met in a healing conversation, and the conversations are being had with Black men and their need to heal, right? There's a lot of trauma, and there's a lot of different things that guys are out there doing to make sure that we are preparing ourselves to be a husband to a wife, right? And I'm just going to apologize to the single women on the panel who may have, taken on some trauma for guys that may not have been conscious. Like, I feel like that's my responsibility now, since I've gone through that process, and I continue that process, no different than me getting the oil change for my car or for a car. But you got to do that maintenance on your mental so that you can prepare yourself for family. Go ahead.
So that percentage of you guys that are taking that initiative to heal trauma is very low. So what about the guys who aren't willing to heal? What is some advice that you can give to them to kind of direct them to that path? Because most men are afraid to even say that they're traumatized, right? So that percentage is very, very small. So it's hard to kind of see a man and say he's healed, you know, or he's not healed. So how could you help navigate men who are having an issue with even saying I'm broken? So what is some type of advice you can give to them?
I think show them love. One of the things, I'm actually a co-lead of a men's ministry at my church, and I meet a lot of men and hear a lot of different things that you can't really share, whatever, just a lot of different things. But the best thing you can do is sometimes you're there just to kind of plant the seed, and somebody else may come behind you and water it.
Right.
Mhm.
The main thing is we got to be there and be there, because the biggest thing is, for some reason, we've gotten to a point to where, I mean, it's not some reason, it's what we've been conditioned to not be there for one another, to be hard, like we all got it together, and it's destroying our community. Again, that's that warfare where they're cutting us off and isolating us.
Mhm.
I mean, like say immediately when I saw Ahmad, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I love to see this. I see like Jay dropping bombs. I gravitate to that because I see forward thinking men, and I think we need to see more of that. And but the thing about it is, what we don't want to do is create a class system, like a caste system, where we're
Mhm.
forward thinking and they're beneath us. We welcome, like, hey man, let's come talk. I think we need to actually just continue to move forward, and hopefully we show love to them, and they'll come join us.
I agree. I think we need to normalize not being perfect.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're, to answer your question, to add to Tay's answer too, Paris. I think we're doing it right. This
Yeah.
conversation started because the group was formalized, and if you paid attention, there wasn't even a question. We was just all on that same wavelength. And Miana got in her lane. She did what she did. Paris got in her lane. Jay got in his lane. I even called y'all on Facebook video last night. I was just going to see who was going to pick up.
I'll watch the game, man. I was over there like, you know, I was like, oh, somebody call him. Let me take
I
the
was
video.
like, I'm in the bed.
Yeah,
I was at a meeting.
but those of us who have started that process of healing, because it's a continuous process. We got to unite. We got to have these conversations. We got to create these platforms. We got to invite people to the conversation because they need an example, right? They need it. They need a model, just like in business. You need a model. Show me a model that this can be done, and then give me a blueprint to go and do it. So we have an awesome model. I want to just go back to Dr. Washington one more time. You know, listen, I have my uncles, my cousins. They've been married 25, 30 years. You don't get there without going through the ebbs and flows of life. Like somebody gets sick, somebody mother's died, the person goes into depression because the mother dies. The mother may die in the house. Like those are different intricacies that take a toll on your marriage. And we have to tap into the Dr. Washingtons of the world and sit down,
Listen.
you know, and listen. Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, Jay, we cool now. We can get them lit on Facebook. But the real wealth is in the nuggets and the details that Mr. Washington can share and break bread with us that Dr. Washington can never possibly get to us because we're men. Men communicate a different way. There's a certain vibe that just, you know, those our senior men have. I love it. I hang around. I've always hung around older men. And I just want to applaud you guys for 27 years of marriage, and I'm gonna be dropping you notes in your inbox all the time now. Like, hey,
I want to say, like to Paris's question about how do we get men in to this space of healing, and I think a big part of it is just like these conversations, being the example, planting the seed, but also sometimes you got to give the blueprint, right? Like sometimes you give the game plan, right? Like we watch basketball. I don't know what the coach is drawing up for that team, but I'm watching what they're doing, and maybe I can emulate the triangle offense for my team. And I try to just give formulas. Like even in my posts, I'm just trying to give it may not be nuanced enough to deal with the individual situation, but it's like if we have to do it ideally, and I always try to go with idealistic thinking and then match it with what's the most practical way to implement that. So you may be not in the ideal situation to go provide 100%. All right, let me provide 95, right? Like figure out what's going to work for you. Financially, I have this thing called 120, 40, 40, right? And I mentioned earlier that the top 1% savers save over 32%. So one of my mentors says, hey, try to save 40% of your income off rip, right? And I feel like for every man, a simple benchmark is try to get to a point where you can save 40% and live on the rest, right? It's not really about the money. It's not about how much you're making. It's about how much you're saving, but it's really about the discipline it takes to get to that space, like of mastery, discipline, routine, regimen, like going through the day-to-day processes of, okay, now I kind of understand how I'm mastering myself. I'm dealing with my emotions. I'm not being an over consumer, a hyper consumer. And so then when you're doing that for yourself as a man, you understand the value of a woman. You're like, man, this would be really great if I had somebody here doing this with me. Adam over here tilling the fields. He's like, man, this would be really nice if I had somebody else. But if you're in the deficit, if you're a deficit and you're like, man, I'm barely getting by, and you're consuming out of a coping mechanism spiritually, like, man, I don't feel fulfilled. So let me go buy these new J's because it's gonna make me feel good. A little dopamine here and there, porn addiction here, like sex addiction there. Like we got all these different voids we're trying to fill. Now you're trying to use a woman. Your pattern is consumption. So you're using a woman for consumption versus
not a woman is a drug.
You consuming her. So when a woman's consumed, she's gonna get drained.
Right.
And now she's gonna turn, when you got an empty vessel, a vessel becomes masculine. And now you got a masculine woman who's drained, who's going at you, who probably feeling a little more feminine. And now y'all gotta hit, like the blueprint is like, yo, let me master myself. And it's really important. Like when you master yourself, your standards rise to another level you couldn't even imagine. Like I remember being in relationships with great women, right? Amazing women, but I was not in position of myself to be mastering what I was doing. So the relationship may have worked out perfectly if I was in my right state, but it didn't because I'm always been an ambitious person. So I'm working. I'm resenting the time I would have to spend with my partner. I'm like, yo, I'm trying to work because in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm not where I need to be yet. Right. Yeah. So it's causing a rift even that same way. So it's like, hey, let me just, as a man, I just think we're not taught that. My dad didn't teach me this. My dad had a bunch of kids. He didn't understand production. He understand consuming, right? Yeah. He created kids, but he didn't produce any resources for them. Right. So I had to learn that, yo, my job as a man is to produce and be spiritually aligned with what I'm producing so that it's a free flow of abundance when I do produce. And I can get to a place where I'm saving 40%, top 1% saver. Now I can bring in a partner and it's not an issue. I can cover this household because I'm saving 40% off rip anyway. So my 120-40-40 is if I'm saving 40, if a woman was, because we got a lot of women doing it on their own out here. A lot of women doing it on their own. True. Is you can get to a woman she already spending her 35% on her necessities. You automatically free up 35% on her income. Let's say 40%. You throw that extra 40, now you're saving 80%. Now you go to her savings. Let me give you the game. You can save 40% of your income. Here's another 40%. Now we're saving 120%. 40% is on living, and now we got 40% on whatever else. You're going to save 3 times more together with that plan than you would individually. So now you have more money for investments. It's just get into that space as a man. That's just a bare basic plan. I just say like, hey, 120-40-40, get there, and then you can figure out the rest. There's going to be nuances. Maybe 110 works for you. Maybe 111, like whatever it is. But it's like, can you get to a space where we're multiplying more together than we would be alone? Because now that joint account, we good with the joint account. We got more money than we would have separate. The joint account, cool. Right? So it's just like 120-40-40 is the blueprint that I would just give a man. It's like, can you get to that place? And if you get there, I feel like you're going to be in a healthy space.
I love it.
Jay, when a man is consuming a woman and she's drained, then she started talking back.
Well, that was my question for Dr. Washington. That was my question for Dr. Washington. As women, when we see a man that's broken and he's trying to get himself together, or even a man that already has himself together, I think sometimes as us being emotional beings, we kind of come at them wrong. If a man is trying to get himself together, sometimes we may call him names that will bring him down and make him feel less than. Or if he's at a certain place, we may do something to make him, come down as a man. As women, what do you think that we should normalize? I honestly, you said earlier, you said everybody has a role. I love that women are supposed to bring peace because men need that, right? Because they're straightforward, right? So as women, what do you think that we, especially in the African American culture, need to normalize and get better at so that men could be the lead? They could be the kings that they are.
The first word that comes to my mind is edification.
Mm.
And if you don't know it, it's very biblical, but it is edifying your partner, edifying your man, and making sure that you're lifting him up. And that's why I love Miana's work so much, because that's what she does for all her kings, right? She's lifting them up, she's motivating them, she's encouraging. And when you edify your man, and he'll tell you this, I don't think anybody's ever heard me say anything bad about him. Honestly, I don't. And it's not because he's perfect, trust me, but it's because I don't speak about the things that might irritate me or might not be 100% perfect. And when I speak to him in a way that I'm always edifying him. I'm always praising him. I'm always thanking him. I'm always, letting him know, how proud I am of him, because those are the types of things that I feel like we're missing the boat on in our relationships, particularly in the Black community, because like we said, the media is doing a good enough job at tearing down the Black man all by themselves. You've got political systems in this country. You've got the police systems in this country. Don't get me started on the infrastructure of this country, and everything is built to tear down the Black man. So as a Black female, I'm never going to be a participant in tearing him down.
Mm-hmm.
Never. And I know he's not going to do that for me. It is reciprocal, but it has to start somewhere. So when you ask what can women do, I'm going to say, even if you don't have it, maybe you need to do it. Obviously, he needs to be worthy, but you find somebody who's worthy. And if you can't find, something to edify them, maybe you're with the wrong person, honestly.
Hey, Paris, and to Jay, everybody's point. I want to talk about something that I would say to women when I was in that phase of rebuilding myself, right? Again, this is the boundaries that men have to create, but you have to have a strong sense of self. I would tell women, I cannot afford to date myself right now. Now, that is the most demoralizing thing that you can say to a woman as a man, right? Because she's looking at you in awe, and you're looking good, and you're talking good, but I know what my circumstances are at this moment. Right now, I cannot afford to date you, because after I went through that divorce and I gave up the house and I got rid of the car and I got rid of the country club membership, I moved into a basement. I moved into a basement to implement. I didn't know there was a theory of the 1-20-20. What's the number again, Jeff?
1-20-40-40.
1-20-40-40.
That's right.
Because I operate like this. I think you saw me make this on a post. I operate on compound interest. So I know that I can go to the markets and make 10% a month on my capital. So let me just give myself some room to free up some capital to go to the market, right? And what happened was, I was going through this divorce and I had $2,000 to my name. To my name now. I'm driving an 8 to my name. To my name, right? My child support is due. The car payment is due. And I'm driving an A8 Audi, right? So that car payment, car payment and child support and the gas bill for the car, my $2,000 is gone. I took $300 to the market and made $3,000 in 4 days, because I understood that all I needed to do was expose some capital to the market, right? So even in that moment, I would still tell women I cannot afford to date myself, because now I don't have my own dominion. I don't have my own dwelling place. I got to make sure I get back to the space where I have procured my own dwelling place, right? Once I got to the dwelling place, I need to be alone again to have this relationship with myself. How am I relating to my environment? Like I found out I was OCD. right? I like things a certain way. I like certain smells. I wash clothes every day because I hate the smell of dirty clothes. Little things that I was doing. I don't like trash cans in my house. So little things that you're doing, but you gotta fall in love with yourself.
Yeah.
I'm talking about healing now.
More people should do that. More people should do that.
You got to fall in love with yourself. You got to date yourself. You got to refrain from having sex if you don't know who you are, because what you're doing, you're spreading that low vibrational energy. Come on, bro. You hit it. You're spreading
low
that
vibrational energy. Okay.
Listen,
Right.
I don't want no low vibrational JJ. Okay. I don't, because energy is money. Energy is a currency is money. Right. So if you spreading yourself around, you are diluting your life force. You got to concentrate your life force. Once you concentrate your life force and you suspend yourself to your craft, you fall in love with yourself, you fall in love with your work, your dominion begins to expand. I didn't get into that space with those business deals until I started doing that. Before then, I'm at the club every single night, Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night. We buying bottles at the club, buying the sections over here. I'm blowing my money. So I got to calm down, chill out a little bit, and focus on building myself up again to prepare myself as a host. I don't have no garbage cans in my house, man.
I want you on that. I feel that.
What do I use?
You take the trash out.
You put it outside the house.
No, I have. I live in a high-rise apartment. You see the backdrop like that. So I have Whole Foods is on the first floor. So don't tell nobody, y'all. I go to Whole Foods. Right? I get a bag. Right. I'm telling everybody. Don't tell nobody though. I get a bag. I'll take like 5 extra bags from Whole Foods and put my trash in and take my trash out like every 6 hours. I don't like trash. I don't like the smell of trash.
I bet Whole Foods like, I just refilled those bags.
Hey, I hope Whole Foods is not watching this, because I'm gonna be dead in the water. But there are some things about yourself that you gotta get in contact and tune with before you decide to invite somebody else into your world, because you don't know what they've been through. You don't know what their dynamics of their makeup is. You don't know what your triggers are. So you're not gonna know what their triggers are. And you may be popping off and not really understanding what you're doing to that individual. So one of the questions you ask parents, what do women need to do? And I'm not a woman, but I'm gonna answer this question because I'm a man. I'm gonna tell you what your words do to me. If you talk to me a certain way, I may not say nothing, but in my mind, I've already shut you down.
Wow.
So if a woman walks into my space and she say, "You bougie," she's not the woman for me. Right? Because that lets me know that she don't understand opulence. Right. She don't know how to operate in that type of environment. So I'm not going to break her and force her into this environment. I can coach you, and I can show you some insights. I can show you how certain deals are made, and then I can help you get into that space. But I never have to have sex with you. We never have to get in a relationship. And I'm protecting my heart and the hearts of those who are not able to protect themselves. That's the responsibility. A man's responsibility is to protect his heart and the hearts of those who can't help. So that's why we have charity. That's why we give back. That's why we admonish, we edify our women. Like meeting today with a woman, and to leave, I said, I'm gonna walk you to your car because I got to make sure she don't get mugged. She just meeting with me, right? Like, she's not my wife, she's not my lady, but I got to protect her. She was just in my presence. So I'm going to walk her to the car. She's in the car. Now she's on the way. We got to protect the women and children.
I think you said a lot, man. You dropped a lot of gems, man. I think
love it.
We do have a question.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Really quickly. I just want to get to this question before it goes like all the comments. But there was somebody that did have a question. So anybody who feels like they would like to answer this question, any advice for young business owners that have been married for years now? We just opened up a new business. This is really very successful. We continue inner work and the same vision.
Man,
business owners, young business owners who have been married for years.
No, I'm not young, but
I'm about to open the business with my wife now. I mean, that's funny. Yeah, that's good. I love it.
Well, I can talk about opening up a business and it fails and you get divorced.
No, don't talk
Talk about that.
Right. Let's
let's not talk about that.
Dr. Washington.
I say, so any advice that I have? Well, I mean, it's just like anything else. You know, teamwork is key, but we've had a lot of businesses. I think the last counter was 13 over the course of our years together. And I think that one of the things that is very important is that understand your dynamic, because everybody can't work together. I mean, you might work very well together as a couple, as a husband and wife couple in your traditional roles of you know, man of the house and woman of the house. But when you own a business together, it's a different dynamic. For example, you know, there's been 3 different corporations where, is it 3? Yeah, NBC, Eaton, and Amgen. My husband and I worked for the same company 3 different times in our life. Outside of our businesses, we worked at this, like we would literally get in the car, drive to work together, go to our separate offices, have lunch together, get back to our offices, and then come home, have dinner, sleep together, and do it all over again, like 3 different times. And a lot of people said they don't really, you know, understand how we could do that, but we understood our dynamics. So one of the things that I would say to you quickly is, as far as that's concerned, is to make sure you understand your role in the business as well. Like if you're, is the business a 50-50 partnership, or is the man the CEO? Like, you know, is the husband, because again, it's difficult when you flip the dynamic. And if you're talking about the traditional sense where the man is the head, and then you go and you're in your business and the woman is telling you what to do, I don't think that personally that works. I think you're going to break that man's ego down, and I don't know. So I think in business you can be 50-50, or the man can still be a little bit more in charge. But I mean, Tay just did a little side thing, so I don't know if I'm stepping on the toe there.
No, you're good. No, I was just thinking that I wouldn't take it ego if my wife were to give me some advice. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, I think that takes a level of self-assurance in a man. I mean, like Brother Ahmad said, you know, when you do the self work and you get to a certain point, outside forces don't really bother you as much. You know who you are. But I can perfectly. Maybe this is just me. I can definitely. My wife is very meticulous, very real good, and I see her strengths. I'm the visionary, but I have no problem with her giving me some recommendations, because she always see things in my blind spot that I miss. I can paint the picture, the canvas, but she'd be like, "Hey, well, what about this?" And so I think it's great to play off each other. I think it's
like a basketball team or any other team, right? You got to know where your players are. You got to know where your everybody can't be the point guard. You know, everybody can't be the point guard. So,
like Brother Tay said, his wife has
drop the gem, y'all. Y'all should read that.
What's that?
And men
who know their work.
You got a point. You got a point. I think like Brother Tay said, everybody has a role. You have to know your strengths. You have to know your weaknesses. And if that's not your husband or your wife's strength, be okay with letting him or her step up to the plate without taking offense to it. And I think just being open and being able to know, okay, you're good in finances, you're good in communication. Just because you're good in it, you run with it, but teach me, right? So kind of pull each other along and play off each other's strengths to make it a successful unit. It could be 50-50, but everybody has strengths and weaknesses, and just play off each other to make it successful.
That's right. Yeah, you do that real well. You always gotta have at least one goon. And my wife like Mary Poppins, everybody love her. And I gotta come like,
Exactly. So in the closing of this, because I'm sure with all these beautiful minds, we could be here until 12, 1 o'clock. But I wanted to get back to, you know, the reason why we started this panel, which was this amazing post by Jay Malik. So I wanted to break it down basically in 4 different sections. So I'm going to post it so that everybody who is, you know, basically watching can read, and then we'll break it down from there. So let me start with, it's going to be 4 different sections. So this is the first one. All right. So a man willing to go 50-50 with a woman is a man that doesn't yet have a plan or initiative to be a financial provider. Masculine energy lives by, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If he saw you and he wasn't motivated enough to get in the position financially, which he should already want for himself, then how motivated will he be when he has open access to your energy. So we've rewarded him for mediocrity. You've rewarded him. Well, I'm sorry. You've given a boy the privilege of a man, and you've effectively emasculated him. That's extremely powerful. And this is why I love challenging men when it comes to finances. That's very powerful. So if you guys can, get the beautiful minds together and elaborate on that.
So that's why I like to ask a woman, what's your idea of your life? Because I do that for two reasons. The first reason is I'm measuring myself against her idea. And then the second reason is if her idea is so far beyond my capacity, then I'm gonna be like, hey, maybe we should be friends and not get involved intimately, because I don't want to hold you up from some other brother that may be ready right now. If you're looking for a husband right now, I don't want to get in your way. So I'm not going to waste your time. We can be friends. And I found that, women respect that a lot more than you manipulating them or wasting their time. And you can discover some business partners by doing the right thing up front. So I agree with that. I want to motivate a man to be better. Like, women, you are the catalyst for massive success. You are the catalyst for massive success. So whatever level I'm on or I'm at before I get to you, when I get with you, I should go a little higher because of your energy. So I like that post from Jay about motivation to get in that position if you're not already in that position.
Right.
And don't be afraid of a different dynamic. I know, again, speaking about me and my wife, we're a different dynamic. When like I say, we were fixed up, you know what I'm saying? But because I was, again, I went through a divorce and I was doing my single thing as a single dad. And I seen her at church and somebody's like, yeah, go talk to Karen. I'm because of that, I'm pretty self-sufficient. I was like, say, I was up there trying to comb my daughter's hair, trying to get them right. I'm pretty much so. I don't, point, preach, and all that. I live it. She see me from the moment we met. I had a plan in place. I had a schedule and different things, and it's almost as if this is how it is to me. I apply the whole field. I sit there and put the whole world on my back. All I need is just how to say, good job, baby, and give me a little water, and I continue to carry it. And that's been our dynamic. It's not, it never was. I just, even myself, I've always been like a self-starter, self-motivator. I mean, I grew up with no kind of daddy issues too, but I always had good men in my life to show me what a man looked like. And so, and my brother, he was a good person, but yeah, sometimes you just need that, somebody to say, good job. That's it. I mean, and I remember for days, let me slap you in the booty one time. I mean, that's just going. But, yeah.
All right. So let's break down the next section. Okay. There are so many men walking around with the feminine energy of entitlement who don't know how to hunt and accumulate resources, but they know how to consume resources and make babies. They'll gladly accept your body and everything you have to offer while providing 50% or less. Okay, let me say that again. While providing 50% or less. 9 out of 10 times you're going to be going 50-50 forever and never really getting ahead financially. Number one cause of divorce. If you ever get married, big if you ever get married, or you're going to start becoming the masculine figure and start feeling like you're his mother, probably both, which is really big. With women in 2019, 40% of women were caring for men. So how do you guys feel about this?
Who posted that?
Jay Malik.
That was that Jay dude.
Hey, that boy be thinking.
Right.
It's powerful, man.
Hey, that is true, right? That's.
I was just going to say, I mean, I think we all like a little bit touched on this piece, but I just want to reiterate how unfortunate I think that is, and how I think that if a man is not ready to be in position to be the provider, I don't think that a woman should come into a relationship giving 50 or more. I don't think she should. And I know it's sometimes difficult, and I think people settle, like, they settle for things that they shouldn't, and they just don't want to be alone. And I get it. But at the end of the day, a real man is going to be in position, as we've said before. He's going to be in position, and it's not like we're saying anything negative. And I think that's where a lot of people were getting offended, like, okay, well, if he doesn't have his stuff together, because to Ahmad's point, he wants a woman to have her stuff together too. There's a certain point in time in our lives, but just like that movie, Think Like a Man, like, there was the dreamer, Michael Ealy's character, right? At some point in time, like, I support you in your dreams, but at some point in time, like, you need to get your stuff together. So you're gonna get together. Like, you can talk all day long. I mean, there's so many men out here that's talking about what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And yet they got the woman working and taking care of the household, doing all these things, because they're living in the fantasy world about what they're gonna do, but they're laying it down in bed. Who cares?
Right.
Like, is that enough for you women to, as a woman, to put yourself in a position where you're caring for a grown man and taking care of him and paying all the bills or the majority of the bills because he's somebody that's gonna lay with you at night? No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I mean, can you sustain yourself? I mean,
Exactly.
that's the big thing. I mean, Brother Ahmad showed it when he had the discipline to say, you know what, I can't afford to date you right now. I mean, you coming in saying, hey, you know what, I'm gonna date you, but hey, you got to pay for your meal. That just seems
no, absolutely not.
Yeah, hey, Tay, I would tell him I couldn't afford to date myself. There were some things that I wanted to do for me.
I mean, you got to stand it for yourself. I mean, you got to respect that. You're like, yo, I respect that. I mean, I never got that. I mean, I actually seen another post where a guy said he is intimidated by a woman that has her stuff together. And to me, I'm thinking, if you're independent, you're living, taking care of your bills, and you're saving like you need to, you got your stuff in order. I don't know. I just never thought that'd be intimidating. Because I feel like without you, I'm good, but together we can be a force.
Man, I've learned so much from women in business, how they conduct business, how they operate themselves in business. You don't have to be intimidated by anything. Like your husband said, Dr. Watson, if you have a strong sense of self, you can say, listen, I need you to coach me on XYZ. Because just like we did, I told you about this date I went on, and we shot out the FICO scores. This person's FICO score was like 830, 850. I was like, damn, I didn't know a FICO score can get that high. And I teach financial literacy, but it's like, in that moment we had that conversation in transparency. Like, yo, how did you do this? And they started going down the line. And so at any given moment, the relationship should be structured in a way that anybody can learn from anybody at any moment. I'm the head, but the head can't move without the body. So I need you to have something to embody that I can learn from and glean from, so we can go and save some families. Because that's what I think the focus of the marriage should be.
Right. I think it's important for us, like you guys touched on earlier, to know your self-worth and know what you bring to the table, and know that you won't settle for just anything less than what you're deserving of. So once you get that, I'm not going to settle mind frame, no matter who thinks that you're thinking beyond what you are. If you have that mind frame and they can't agree with what you see yourself as, they're not for you. You have to start attracting people and stop have to settle for less than what they deserve. But also, people have to be open to understanding that somebody's going to call you out, somebody's going to be intimidated by you, but just because they are, don't stop being who you are. And if a person is intimidated by somebody, that means that they're not a leader, that they have, self issues. And if somebody's intimidated by you, you have to look at that as a self problem, not a you problem, and take it on as, oh, what am I doing wrong? And don't question yourself. We just all have to stand strong and solid in who we are, what we believe in, and move forward with life.
Once I got different, I started attracting different type of women.
Yes.
I mean, and what you see now is a finished product, but I mean, just to be totally transparent, if you I mean, there's still people who see me now on Facebook and be like, "Oh, you turned out to be such a good boy." You know, I was worried about you when you were young. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't always like this, man. And I look back and I'm appreciative because I still have a little ratchet in me, and I like the little ratchet side because you keep it 100.
Hey, don't be toxic, Tay. Don't be toxic.
You know, it helps because when you think about your emergency fund, I think I heard somebody call it your Roman noodle fund. You know what I'm saying? When you got to get down and eat Roman noodles, I'm like, yo, that's Roman noodles good. What you talking about? But like, no, man, I think it does come with knowing yourself and becoming into your full man. You do attract different people. I mean, what I wanted back then, what I thought I wanted back then was totally toxic. I mean, and with my situation now, I didn't even think it can get like this. I actually figured, I'll be honest with you, I used to want a woman that gave me attitude. I used to want that I had to be like, go sit down somewhere.
A lot of men do.
You wanted her to talk back, Tay?
I wanted, I don't want to run over nobody. No time, I don't want nobody to run over.
A lot of men do.
A lot of men do. Yeah, a lot of men. Because I do a lot of like counseling on this side, and a lot of men are like, when I talk to them about this like phenomenal love that they deserve, they're like, oh, that sounds boring, and I'm like, you're so used to toxic love that's boring to you when it's just because you're used to toxic. Your love to be toxic. So.
It's a double-edged sword because them crazy chicks always have like a trick or two that they get you with. You know what I'm saying? It always be like, like
the cute crazy beater. Have you ever seen the grass? The cuter they are, the crazier they are.
Yeah,
I think God make that on purpose. I think God made women like that on purpose to teach men that looks and yoni are not everything. You know what I'm saying? You gotta have that key. Not everything. So, but no, it took a lot of growth, and I do appreciate what things are, but I had to learn. And so, I mean, I love, like, Miss Washington gave her testimonies. I love hearing Brother Ahmad, give testimonies, man, because that growth and you sharing it, you're building bridges for the people that's coming behind you.
Right.
Looking at this, like, taking notes.
It's that in itself is a war too, because we are positioning ourselves to be in opposition of what culture says, right? So again, that's why when I see, like, when we connected, Tay, like, it's an instant connection. We got to talk right away because we are fighting these battles on a day-to-day basis. I remember when I made a post to build a community, you got to protect the women and children, and you should have saw some of the dudes responding. I'm like, I have two daughters, so if you raising your sons to not protect women and children, then I got a problem with you.
That's right.
Because and if I got to sacrifice my life for the rest of my life spreading that message, then that's just what I'm going to do. Because I don't want my daughters to deal with a morsel of the things that I put their mothers through. And I spend countless times having conversations with them to make sure they know that, hey, I was in error in this phase of my life. And because I was in error in this phase of my life, this is how I treat your mother now. And we're not together, right? I treat her better now than I did when we were married. but that's the secret to my blessing. Like, it's the relationships that you have, period, with women, not just the one that you're intimately involved with. Because that energy is still real. Energy is real, right? So I should be able to pick up the phone and call Miana, pick up the phone and call Paris, pick up the phone and call Dr. Washington, and hold myself in a position to where you can give me something back based off of the energy that I'm giving you. That I should be able to go back and use in my personal life and advance myself, and vice versa. You can go and implement something that I'm saying in your personal life to advance yourself. So once we start doing that as a community, that's how we start to heal the community and try to close the gap. I don't think the gap will be closed in our lifetime. So we have to start thinking 100 to 200 years ahead. Because if we continue on this path that we're going on, 200 years from now, our descendants would be back in slavery.
Wow.
And we cannot let that happen on our watch. There's been too much advancement from those who came before us. Like Martin Luther King broke down the barriers for many of us to have a corporate job. And then Barack Obama ascended to the highest height of the corporation of America. So now we have a vice president who is black. You know, whatever the debate is, she looked black. So now we got another reflection. We've had a person of color in the top position, number one position, and a person of color or minority position. We won't have no more excuses. We got to get on the job. I think the future is female. The future is female, minority female. So as a brother who understands financial literacy, I'll look for women to invest in. Because I know if I put my seed in fertile ground, I'm going to get a return. Yeah. I'm going to get a return.
Yes.
I'm telling you. I tell women all the time, you don't need to be worried about no man. You need to get your money right. Get your money right. You know what I'm saying? So I think men should do the same thing, but we're so prideful and our egos are so big that it is hard for us to listen. And until the pain of staying exceeds the pain, then you're going to always keep hitting your head on that ceiling. Your money is going to be depleted. And in life, you're going to be miserable and wishing you had made it. So I applaud everybody on this panel and applaud all the work that you're doing, because I know it's not easy. And positive vibes to y'all.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you, Paris. Appreciate you.
That was a bomb right there.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah, definitely.
starting this, bro.
Well, Jay, you told him it was $5,000, man. I just had to give him.
I know.
Yeah, exactly.
We need to do more of these, man.
Exactly.
For sure.
This was
We're
good.
gonna do a trading class. We're gonna talk about selling some call options. We can talk about investing and cash flow assets.
Lowering your vibrations.
That's right.
Yeah, and before we actually close out, if everybody can go around, excluding me, but if everybody else can go around and just give, either your Instagram or just different ways for people to support and follow you. And start with Dr. Washington.
Okay. I can be found on Instagram, but not often, at the Property PhD. And that's also my website, the Property PhD. So anything new and exciting is going on right now. I'm just focused on my nonprofit and growing that and helping people. So, but yeah, that's where you can find me. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me, Miana.
Oh.
You guys can find me on Facebook, Paris Lauren. You can also find me on Instagram. I am Paris Lauren. You can find me on Clubhouse, Paris Lauren on Clubhouse. You guys can also interact with me on any platform that there is. I'm really, really, really happy that we had this conversation. More conversations are needed to touch people and let people know that it is okay to not be okay and not be perfect. So this conversation was touching. I appreciate everyone on this panel. I appreciate Miana for, pulling us together and making this powerful vibe happen. So I appreciate you guys.
You guys can find me on Facebook. My Facebook is where I do a lot of communication on, Ahmad Perry. You can also find me on Instagram at Ahmad Perry Inspires or at _ The Only Way Out. And you can go to my website, theonlywayoutour.com, to learn more about my trading academy. We took a group of people in April from $0 to over $160,000 in profits. In 4 months, they had no information about the financial markets when they started. We did that. And just the various people that are in the group. We have people that were in Section 8 and people who are professional ball players learning how to leverage the financial market. So please get involved with that.
Awesome.
You can find me on Facebook mostly, facebook.com/JMalik Coaching. I'm also on Instagram at JMalik Coaching. Website, JMalikTeachings.com.
Yes, you can find me on Facebook also at Tay Walton. You can also you can join our Facebook group. Go to the website www.wealthripple.com. Wealth Ripple is a business that helps businesses. We do matchmaking with investors. We have Bitcoin trading. Now, it's basically, if you become a member, you get access to hundreds and hundreds of tools and coaches to help you grow your business. Get a part of the program. If you're not even sure what business you want to start, but you feel entrepreneurial, jump into our Startup and Flow program. Again, that's wealthripple.com, and there's a Facebook group called Wealth Ripple, private Facebook group where a lot of things take place. Clubhouse, Tay Walton, and your_inner_fitness_coach. That's a lot of underscores.
Awesome. And everybody that's watching, I just really hope that you got to absorb all this wonderful energy. I hope that you are able to apply it to your life. As I close out all of my stuff, I want you to know that you are one in all of the world. You're not one in a million. That makes you special, that makes you rare, and that makes you extremely valuable. So make sure you feel like that. I want you to go to sleep tonight very excited about your life and the beginning of your 2021. So thank you again for everybody who is on the panel. You guys are amazing, and I definitely would love to check you out soon. And don't be shy, guys, in the that are watching. Reach out to these wonderful people.
Plug in.
Don't be hindered. All right, bye, guys.